Hello, this is Ian Griffiths, and this is the Armed Forces Resettlement in Conversation podcast. Okay, so welcome to the Armed Forces Resettlement in Conversation podcast. Hello to everybody watching on my LinkedIn profile and all the people watching in the British Armed Forces Resettlement Community Facebook group. This week's guests are Ami Rees and Harold Floyd from Elite Force Safety. I've been following these guys for maybe, 8, 10, 12 months. Really admired what they do, like the look at the business. I know Harold's had a really illustrious career in the Royal Artillery as well, so I'm going to talk to him about that. Hope you guys enjoy listening to the podcast today. If anybody has got any questions or they want to ask Harold or Ami anything about Harold's career or Elite Force Safety or anything to do with getting in touch with them, drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them either as we go along or at the end of the podcast. Okay, so no further ado, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what I usually do is to start the podcast is we'll talk about Harold's military career and what happened, when he joined up, when he left, what happened when he left, and things like that. So I'll pass over to you, Harold, to let us know a bit more about your military career.
Whoa, God, it was a long time ago. It was. I'm not going to cover all the years because it'll be very boring. I joined in '85 actually as a junior soldier, and then I did it originally. I went for the 22, and luckily for me, I actually had 2 stabs at the settlement. And then I got an extension because of Afghanistan, and then I finished after 26 years. So, I did 26 years artillery. I did 2 stints at a training regiment as well, actually, which were a lot of fun. But majority of the time was just normal artillery soldiering, moving up the ranks, and then, as everybody does as you move up, finished off in logistics.
So
for a few years, really.
So when you got on the train or onto wherever you were, going to, where did you do your basic training? Where did you head off to?
It's a camp called Bramcourt, which is just south of Birmingham.
Okay.
It was junior soldier, so I went there at 16 and 1 month.
Oh.
And when I joined there, I got my medical records. It was quite amusing when I finished. I weighed 50 kilos in weight, and I was 5'1", and then 20 years later, I weighed 100 kilos and I'd grown 10 centimeters.
Yeah, so I remember when I joined up as well, I joined up with I think I joined up at the age of 19 or something like that. But there was some younger guys there when I joined up, and they couldn't even join a ship until they were 18. So they could go through the basic training, second phase training, everything else, but they couldn't join a ship until they were 18. For the obvious reasons about, going for drinks and stuff like that. And even when everyone else was in phase 2 training, you're allowed off the base to go for a drink. Those guys weren't. They were just sort of sat around on the base and stuff like that. And was that the same for you, I guess? Or did you just sneak off and go for a...
Well, I was posted to Germany. What happened? I ended up in the junior leaders PT display team, which was jumping on trampolines and doing somersaults. So we had an extended amount of time. So I got to the regiment when I was 17 and a half.
Okay.
But you're quite right. Even then, we were lining up to go to Northern Ireland and do a tour of Northern Ireland. And I couldn't go until I was 18. But luckily, we did all the training. And then when we deployed, it was like 3 months after I was 18, was allowed to go. So, that was my first thing.
And I suppose at the age of 18, that's quite a sort of scary thing to do, because the conflict in Northern Ireland was pretty raw at that time, wasn't it? It must have been a pretty sort of, I don't know, you must be a brave guy to go to on all these different sort of deployments that you've been on. But at the age of 18, you must have been pretty
What?
Sorry?
No, I was just saying I wouldn't class it as that. I think it was a bit of fun.
Oh, really?
Because you're only 18. Remember when you're 18,
Yeah.
you're up for. Don't forget you're surrounded by all the people who've done it before. You have all the people in the ranks who give you that and instill that confidence, and they look after you. They know you're 18, as you would do now. You would look down and help your people who are coming into the business, like you're doing with these podcasts. So I had people like that looking after me, and we all make silly mistakes and think we're invincible then. But no, it was part of joining the army. It's what we did, We had 4 months training as well in Germany. So the 4 months training put us through it, and we was all ready to go. If you do training for something, then you want to go and do it as soon as you can. So it was.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It was a rough time. Don't get me wrong. In the 80s, it was rough, but it was all part of it, I suppose. I'm no different now. I wouldn't want to go today.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, well, I think
Sorry, I was going to say, in fact, I've been back to Belfast since and walked the streets, and it was still a little bit scary because I remember walking the streets and them being a lot different. But actually, it's a lot better. Belfast is awesome now. I definitely recommend going for a holiday or for a long weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, things have come on leaps and bounds over there, haven't they, since that sort of time? So moving on to your other deployments, you went to Afghanistan twice, is that right?
No, I did. Afghanistan was my last one.
Right.
I was in the Gulf. I went to Ireland twice, and then went to the original Gulf War in '91.
Okay.
And then because I was at the training regiments, I missed out on the Iraq, and then I only went to Afghanistan once, which was my final one before I finished in the military. Yeah,
so that's when you sort of so when you're so moving on, you've done a really sort of exciting career in the Royal Artillery. You've climbed the ranks and everything else as the natural progression. That's what people do when they sort of get to sort of 22, 26 years. When you realised that, or when did you realise that you'd had to start making a plan to leave, and what was that plan? Did you have a strategy?
I actually had a strategy at about the 15-year point, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I was thinking, right, at some point I'm going to have to leave the military. And at the time I was at the training regiment in Basingbourn, and I thought, what can I do? What's the future? What can I get into now, so that when I finish in the military, I've got something set up. And I thought about 2 things. I thought about food and gents hairdressing. So bear in mind, this is about 17 years ago. And I thought, right, let's assess these 2. And I thought, food, really cheap, really easy. 2 slices of bread, 1 egg, bit of mayo, egg sandwich, £1. Probably cost me pence to make. But then I thought about all the losses that go along with that. And then you need a shop front, then you need a food hygiene. So I canned that a little bit. And I thought, gents hairdressing. And at the time, guys only wanted a quick short back and sides, get in and out in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I so wish I'd have stayed with it, because you look at gents grooming now.
Yeah, well, that's it. My barber costs me like sort of, 15 quid a haircut. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I know some people charge upwards of 20, 25 quid and stuff like that. So, it would have been a good thing to get into. But at the time, people just going in for a £5 haircut. Everyone gets the same haircut.
And this is it, and that's why I thought, right, and that's easy, because I thought with the business, you get a property. Because I actually went to Cambridge. Yeah, went to Cambridge night school and did the course for a year.
Yeah.
So I did a night on gents barbering. And what happened there is I thought, right, easy. I get a shop, because all you need in the barbers is a shop, a couple of PowerPoints, a bit of a shelf, and some trimmers. So, and then what you do is you rent out the other chairs, and what you rent out the other chairs pays for the property, and then rent on the property, and then whatever you get comes in is yours. So really, this is what you haven't. And I thought that's what I would. And I thought, what sort of business am I in where loads of people need haircuts? I'm in the military. Loads of guys are going to want haircuts from me, and I'll say I'll do it for a couple of quid. And I sort of keep my hand in, get loads of haircuts, bit of a sideline on cutting hair. Unfortunately, when I did the course and I told everybody I was qualified, nobody believed me. They went, no, you're not touching me. You're not coming near me with it. No, I'm not. Don't believe you. And they didn't believe me. So I had about 10 or 15 people that I would probably cut, but like you said, it was one type of cut. And then if I had to go near anybody with long hair, I'd probably worry about it. I even did a couple of weekends at a barber shop, but I was a little bit slow because I'd only just learnt.
Yeah.
But I did start to think about something and what I would like and try to incorporate them too. And that's the one thing that I wish I had have carried on with, is that gents grooming. Because for me, a haircut and a shave is 30 quid where we live.
Yeah. Same here, yeah. And I think, just listening to your story there of what you were planning when you leave, it seems like you already knew that you wanted to do something for yourself rather than go out and, just get a job somewhere, I don't know, like Amazon or somewhere like that. More recently, people are coming out and going there. It sounds like you knew that you wanted to do something, I don't know, entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I suppose what it was is I was looking at, right, I'll get out at the 22-year point. Obviously, I get quite a big lump sum, and then that lump sum, and then I have a monthly amount coming in. So I don't need that much to tip me over. And if that works for me, then I can build on that business and make that work for me. So yeah, I always thought, working for myself would be something that I would enjoy. More on that, no doubt.
Yeah, so that's great that you had a plan at 50. So that's like 11 years before you left. You already knew, you were already sort of thinking about your exit and what that's going to look like. So that's just great advice for anyone who's sort of thinking of leaving in the next sort of 5 years. Start getting your plan together, because the sooner you do that, the better it's going to be for you when you do that exit. Because, people know my story. I made no plan, and I ended up getting shouted at over a Cadbury's cream egg in Tesco's when I worked there. So if you don't want that to happen to you, listen to Harold. So fast forward.
So one of the things, Ian, there with that was, you have your learning credits that you have. You don't have to wait until the end. And I thought that if I got them credits and I got qualified, that would give me 5, 7, 10 years of experience of doing that business. Because I think one of the things that guys lack is they go on a course, and as I found out, you go on the course, you go, right, I've done the course, I'm ready for the job. And everybody I applied to when I finished with the bomb disposal all said, yeah, you're 90%, but you've got no experience.
Yeah.
And that was my stumbling block. So my idea behind that was, use them credits that are available while you're serving, not at the end. Use them now, and then you can get, and then your certificate also looks like you've had that certificate for 5, 7 years.
Yeah, and I mean, well, just to sort of reiterate, when I left, I did a night school bricklaying course, and it was great. I got up to a certain standard, but because I hadn't worked on a building site in a 3-man gang, 2 bricklayers and a hod carrier, I wasn't up to speed, and I couldn't get a job doing it. And then the recession hit, which, in 2008-9, and they stopped building houses anyway. So that sort of put a lid on it anyway. But I did find when I did that bricklaying course, I could lay bricks, but I just wasn't sort of up to speed like the other guys who had, done it from school, done an apprenticeship and worked on building sites since they, whilst they were doing the course, and then, after they'd done that. So like you say, it's good to get the plan and then get the experience whilst you're getting ready to leave. So when you left, was the CTP? CTP would have been up and running by then, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Did you use those guys?
I did. I used them on 2 occasions actually, because I was doing 22 and my time was running out. Within the sort of last 12 months, at my 21-year point, I went, right, let's get on to CTP. Let's look at resettlement. But what happened is I had applied for an extension because my kids were in boarding school, and I applied on the proviso that my kids were put in boarding school to see them through education. Yet I'm now leaving. Is there a possibility for an extension for the continuity of education of the kids? And actually, that's why I ended up doing 26, is because I got that 4-year extension. So once you've done your initial resettlement, I think after 2 or maybe 3 years, you requalify for it again. So I had a second stab at it. So I did 2 lots of resettlement, if you like.
Oh, well, that's funny that, because I had a message off a guy, I can't remember his name. I'm going to get him on the podcast anyway, but I think he did about 40 years in the Royal Navy or something like that. And he did resettlement 6 times because of, because of that sort of situation. Yeah. So that's sort of the second time I've heard that in a matter of a few weeks. So that's quite good advice for, the people who have been in quite a while. And maybe at this moment in time, some people have signed back on or sought an extension because of the coronavirus situation. That's good information for those guys to know, because they may not be aware of that point. So that's absolutely brilliant. So there's a couple of questions that I sort of ask people who have, on the podcast. I ask the same questions to everyone because I like a different sort of angle from every person that comes on. Everyone's got a different viewpoint. And so, if someone came to you and said, "Look, Harold, I'm looking to sign off at the moment," what would your top 3 tips be to that person?
I would say, are they looking to sign in this scenario? Are they looking to sign off this week and give themselves 12 months?
Yeah, 12 months. Say if somebody was going to do 12 months, because that's the general scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you not going to do top tip time?
It's top tip time.
Oh, I know you're into a top tip. I've watched a lot of your videos.
It's top tip time. But first of all, is go. Don't sign off yet. Have a plan. What is it you want to do? My first question would be ask yourself, what is it you want to get into? What is it you want to do? What interests you? My lad's just left the Royal Marines, and he did the same thing, but he signed off without realising what he wanted to do. And then he got out, and he hadn't done anything by the time he got out, because he was all over the place with, I'm going to join the police, I'm going to go in any uniform service and the fire service, and they all fell through. So he was adamant as a Royal Marine he was going to get into one of the other services, and he didn't.
Yeah.
But he left without using that. So I'd say the first one would be ask yourself what you want to do and get onto your resettlement there and then. Get into your CTP. Too many people leave it till 6 months, 4 months out, and that time just flies. That's why I've said get into it before you leave. Get that certificate before you leave, because normally if you do, let's say, well, on my first round at the 22-year point, I did the health and safety, so I did the NEBOSH. So I had that certificate, and then when I left, I actually had 4 years worth of experience. Although it was at a quartermaster's, the quartermaster has these responsibilities, so I could prove that I've been training in that. So
yeah, and
I've been practicing that certificate.
You can translate
definitely.
To the you can translate that qualification over to you can translate the terminology over to fit a civilian career, can't you? You can sort of say, right, well, I did all this, and that's how it translates into civilian life.
Absolutely. And that would be my first one. What is it you want to do, and what is it that gives you passion? You may already have a hobby, a sport, or a pastime, and I do know a few people like Daz DeGan at DeGan Fitness. He was a PT core guy, and he went, right, I'm going to set up my own gym. So he already had the experience. It's interesting, and you can still see he's still got the passion for it. He's there all the time. So what is it you want to do? What is it that you enjoy doing? Because if you enjoy it, you'll be more passionate about it. Otherwise, some people sometimes fall into a job and then stick in that job and can't get out of it. So I'll just do lorry driving for a bit. Well, while you're lorry driving, you can't be looking for the perfect job. And that's the difficulty with that. So the first top tip would be, what is it you want to do, and what is it that gives you passion that you want to get into? Second one, then, I would say, is get onto that resettlement as soon as possible, because the military will just keep using and using and using you every single day, even on your last day if they can, and they don't care about that. So the sooner you start your resettlement, the more chance you've got to get in it and missing less of it. So get that done as soon as possible. That means you can then start networking. And then I suppose the third one is networking. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, let people know. And if you've been in a long time, you will know a lot of people. Start connecting with them people and put it out there that you're looking to leave. And then just time on platforms, really.
Well, I would even say to people as well, just that I totally agree with everything that you've said there. And if anyone's watching who isn't ready to sign off yet, say if you're, I don't know, say if you're doing your full 22 and you're at 18, for instance, start building your LinkedIn network now. Start adding people, start sort of engaging and stuff like that, because, you know, in 4 years, you can build a pretty big network up on LinkedIn. And then when you're in that final year, or you know, doing your resettlement, you're already connected with the people. And especially if you've chosen the sort of, if you'd say, I don't know, say if you want to go into construction project management and you're building your network up within that sort of arena over those 4 years, when it comes to putting yourself out there that you're looking for a job within that arena, it's going to, you know, you're going to do much better than you would do if you hadn't have done that, if that makes sense. So yeah, I completely, networking is so much easier now that it's all online as well.
I did a little bit of a conversation with a guy, ex-Navy he was, and he was over in Kent, and he's like, oh, I'm looking for work, and I think he'd only done 4 or 5 years. And he's like, I've only got this, and I've only got that, and I've only done this qualification. I said, all right, stop right there. Let's just enhance what you've done. And are you in touch with ex-military recruitment, ex-military leaving the forces, all these things? And I linked him, tagged him in about 10 ex-military helping people on LinkedIn. And he went, brilliant. And he signed up to them all. And I think now he's got himself a job. But he just wasn't putting himself out there. And he had this thing that he'd only done this. And I went, some of the skills you've got, even though you've only done a little bit of time, some of the skills you've got, you can't give a certificate for. You know, and you're talking to me, and he was talking to me quite well. And I said, get into these people. And if you'd have done that, and I think he'd only been out like 2 or 3 months, and he was blind. As soon as I put him onto all them, he felt so much better. But if he'd have done that 12 months ago.
I think that's the thing as well, that you undervalue the transferable skills. So because it is a different language, I don't have any military background. So to me, some of the stuff is completely different language. But when you realise these skills that you get just from being in and just from the general moving up the ranks, it's knowing how to put that across, I think. But I think a lot of people do undervalue what you've learned in the career.
Yeah, and I think as well, what the problem is with networking and people coming out of the military is this: when you're in a military bubble, whether you're on a ship like I was, or on a naval base, or on a barracks, or in some sort of you know, within a squadron or whatever, your network are those people. They're your oppos, they're your opposite numbers, they're your people, they're the people you go to when you're in the shit. Yeah, you'll go and speak to those people, they'll do that to you. Brothers in arms sort of things, isn't it? You know, sisters in arms. You don't look outside that bubble because you don't need to. They're your family, if that makes sense. So you don't really naturally think, oh, I need to be on LinkedIn, because you've got you. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. I think you feel very secure. All your needs are met whilst you're serving. But do you know what? They're cut off really harshly. Yeah. Off you go into the big wide world. And you have to start finding new people to go around to. And a classic example of that, of what's good, you've got a guy one of our first aid instructors, who's still serving. And he's serving there, and he qualified himself as a first aid instructor. And I've never met him before, but instantly we had a connection, and we started mentioning names. The military is such a small place these days. And we were bouncing names off back and forth. So I went to one of my other mates and said, do you know this guy? And he went, top bloke. So I brought somebody in off the recommendation of someone else. So we all know, and many, many people have been passed on to us because of them knowing me having been around a lot, and over multi-cap badges as well. So you know, I've talked to someone who was in the infantry the other day, who's now a site leader, and I worked with him about 15 years ago, and he was like, hello, mate, how's it going? So you'd be surprised how many people you can bump into completely by accident. Even one of my recruits from about 17, 18 years ago said, is that you? Weren't you this person? Because he only would have known me as Sergeant Floyd. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, do you remember me? And I was like, no, mate. And he'd tell me. And I went, wow. Yeah, I know I remember you, because he told me a couple of times I made him run around a little bit and do some stuff. and he's doing really well for himself. And you know what? One of the things you said, transferable skills, is he said he did his initial training with me. He said, He did phase 2 for a very short amount of time, and then through an injury, getting out. Because, but the skills that I got then were unbelievable. He said they've set me up, and he's now a site foreman, and he's only like, I think, what is he being now? I think he's in his early 30s, and he said them skills of the professionalism that I got then. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that must be sort of quite humbling to you that you made that mark on somebody's life, and they remembered you, even though you didn't remember them because you probably trained that many recruits. It's so difficult to just, remember absolutely everyone. For him to walk over to you and say that must have been sort of so humbling. So, right, what I'll do now is what I'll do quick.
Just going to say, he reminded me about the one time I caught him smoking, and then he ended up running around with his respirator on for a bit. And I went, I remember that one.
Yeah. So which one was it though? You've probably done that to a few people, right? So what I'll do now is I'll just take a quick break into the comments. Can you guys see the comments there on the screen?
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
You can see them, yeah. So one person has asked, Ian, is there a recording so we can watch this later? Yes, there will be a recording. It'll be up on the YouTube channel by mid next week, and I'll post a link of it onto LinkedIn so you'll be able to watch it back. I'm just going to have to wear them glasses. I don't even know where they are. Right. I'll persevere. I've been speaking with a guy who has set up a charity, Veterans in Logistics, who are helping vets get back into work and their licenses. Why do you think many vets get into logistics? Great question, Ben.
Is that fielded to me?
Yeah. So why do you think so many vets go into logistics?
I think it's the natural progression. If you've been up the ranks, doesn't matter who you are, you start at the lowest rank, you go all the way up, you may become like the regimental sergeant major, and the next stop is you're moving into the QMs, and everybody ends up there. Just think it's part of it. It's not a bad move, to be honest. It's not something I would like to get into, even though I did the RQMS course and I was an RQMS. It's just part of the progression of going in, and I think people naturally go, oh, I've been doing that, and if I'm leaving, that's what I've been doing, I must be good at it, I'll just do that. But organisation, there's lots of parts to logistics as well. So you've got the transport, you've got the office side, you've got the organising down there, you've got the goods in, you've got the picking, you've got to get the orders on time. There's a lot of doing in logistics.
Yeah, it's a huge sort of spectrum, isn't it? It's a huge, it's not just driving a lorry or, stock control's a big one, isn't it? Quality control, all sorts of stuff within that sort of arena. It's not just one sort of job, is it?
No, maybe it's because we're naturally gifted in that area. You do a lot of it because you organise, first of all, at a low level. You organise all your kit to be there at the right time. Have you got the right stuff? Are you prepared? Will you be travelling to? And all that stuff there. And I think if you look at some of the big companies, Tesco's, when I was leaving, were massively recruiting military for their stores, and then the next one is Amazon at the moment. There's something in it, Ian. There's got to be.
Yeah,
Balfour Beatty are doing it. So there's got to be companies are recognising ex-military.
Yeah, they're not that hardy. Yeah. So right, okay. Someone, all right. So someone just tagged someone in. Ian, we are as an organisation would love to take part on your podcast. Okay, drop me an inbox and I'll have a chat with you. Ben said before he went bald, he paid £30 upward for a cut and shave. Now he shaves his own head and ends up missing the chunks at the back. Right. Is your nickname Pinky? Pinky Floyd? Yeah, get it? Yeah. Someone on Facebook. Yeah, well, I got it as soon as I said Floyd. I was a bit slow on that one, mate. Yeah, so people who leave it too late getting out, you need to be selfish in your last 2 years and concentrate on your future. So that's someone just reiterating what you've just said. So, Harold, you've done a lot of the talking, and now I'm going to pass it over to Amy to talk about Elite Force Safety, because I've been watching Elite Force Safety and the things that you guys do. I watch your top tips. I like the mental health stuff that you guys do. And that's what made me approach you guys, because I just adore what you guys have got going on. So who are Elite Force Safety and what do they do?
So we want to do a little bit of background first. So we both used to work for a training company. So I worked there for 3 years. You were there for 9. So when you first got out, you actually went into first aid, didn't you? You got your first aid qualification, and you were going to be an instructor, but you didn't have your own business, and then you kind of waiting for people to come to you with work. So you then got into this company, and you were working for them employed because it was more security for you. So you kind of had that experience anyway. And we, without going into too much detail, didn't have the best experiences with that towards the end. So we were looking at options. And obviously Harold gained quite a lot of experience with the industries. He used to go into a lot of different industries and got a lot of industry knowledge. And then obviously with the health and safety, and then with all the military background and qualifications as well. We were looking at being employed, and we were just kind of like, we were both weighing up our options with it. And we were speaking with another training company, and we were actually going to go into partnership. But we looked at it and we're like, do you know what? We can give this, let's give it a go ourselves. Let's try and set up our own business. Let's just see how we can do with it. We've got we always knew that we wanted to do the military standards thing, because we do incorporate quite a lot of that into our training. So we're basically a training provider, but we do training programs. We don't just do training. So we've got we do manual handling, we do mental health, we do first aid, we do leadership, but they all kind of sit quite well together because they're the 3 top reasons for lost time in the workplace: manual handling and injuries, slips, trips and falls, and mental health. So we kind of incorporate them all into a program rather than just the tick box training. So we do something slightly different that's a lot more practical, a lot more kind of interactive, and we tailor everything so it's to the business that we are delivering it to.
Oh, so say if I was a business and I said to you, right, I'll even use my marquee hire business as an example. If I said, right, this is my marquee hire business, this are the fundamentals, this is the amount of staff I've got, what can you guys do for me with regards to, the mental health and the manual handling and everything else? You would just sort of do a bit of an audit on my business and then come back to me with a proposal. Exactly. Is that right?
Yeah. So we do the first stage of the training needs analysis. So we would have somebody go out to the site and have a meeting, have a chat, have a look around, see where your issues are. So for the marquee thing, you probably have lone workers. So that would be something that you'd focus on, the mental health. And then with the manual handling, we would do like a short theory session, but majority of the training would be with the people doing their job. So we would be out putting marquees up with you.
Yeah. I'll give you a ring in July then when I'm a bit short staffed.
So that's how we kind of approach it. So it's slightly different because obviously at the moment there's a lot of people doing online training.
Yeah.
We haven't done any online training because it just doesn't work for what we're trying to achieve. So it's that's slightly different.
And I must say as well, like, sorry. I must say, sorry, there's a bit of a lag, mate, on the internet connection, but I was having a little scout around on your website, obviously doing my due diligence for the podcast, and I just love the crispness of the branding and everything else, and all the sort of, you've got all your about us and the backstory and everything else that comes with the business, and I know that it's just going to sort of catapult into, especially once coronavirus is over. I just know you guys are going to be out there smashing it. Like I can tell.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it. I think we've had quite a few setbacks. Obviously, COVID's been fun.
Yeah.
We're feeling positive about it, and we're moving in the right direction. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You were going to speak then, Harold. Sorry.
I was just going to emphasise something with the way we do it. There's a couple of parts where I build the courses, and that's where we do that tailoring for them. We've got a big thing at the moment. We had a push last year, but then November quashed it, is men's mental health. But I'm not sure whether people are aware that the biggest group for suicide are men 45 to 49, and men make up 75% of suicides in UK. Why is that? I'm not going to go into the lesson now, but there's a reason behind that. So you think construction and you think a lot of mechanics and people like that, they're all male-dominated industries. So we've tailored our mental health around why that suicide rate is high, and we even explore midlife crisis is the term that everybody knows. Is it a thing, or is it just a saying? There's actually something behind it. We go through that. The manual handling side is as I saw in your video when I was doing my due diligence with you, is if you're loading vans and unloading vans and working off pallets or in a warehouse, that's where we're doing our training, because that's what you're interested in. We do, and one of the things we do is say, we do not do, keep your back straight, bend your knees, here's a cardboard box. Because if I touch the cardboard box while I'm training you, I'm not giving you enough quality of what you actually need. That's what we do.
I haven't got enough fingers to count the amount of times I've had to read a manual handling form with a cardboard box on it and sign it at the end of it. Like, that's just, it is an old school thing, that though, isn't it? Like, how many times that I must have signed one of those in the past, and that's it. That's the end of it. You've done your manual handling form, haven't you?
There's a big disorder. It's no good to you either, because all you've done is you've ticked that box, and if you've read our stuff, we're not into ticking boxes. We've got to make it 1, fun, enjoyable, and 3, relatable to your particular task. So every course we deliver for every customer, different.
Well, if people can relate to it, then they enjoy it more, don't they? You don't.
Yeah,
you don't
when it's fun. Whenever I've done training in any sort of arena, whether it be in the military, when I used to work in sales with Auto Trader, or when anything that I've ever done that's fun in my life, it sticks in your head. You remember it. Whereas if you get sort of talked at for 2 hours with a PowerPoint, it doesn't really stay in there, does it? You just want to get out of the room as quickly as possible.
Here's something you may relate to. Do you ever do command tasks?
Command tasks.
Leader-led. I'll tell you what, where you have a piece of rope and you have some tires and a plank of wood.
Oh, yeah.
If you touch the ground, you're going to die. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I do remember.
Okay, we actually include them in our mental health. We talk about communication, and what I do is I give them a task where I don't appoint a leader or anything, and everybody just goes, right, you've got to get all that ammunition box, you've got to get it over there, and you can only touch that tire and there, and it's got to go over here. And they go, oh, right. And they all go at it like they do, probably like you did, or like any military did. And then they fail the task, and then we talk about, why did that go wrong? So it's not being taught us how to do it. They're actually participating. And command tasks, if you remember them, as soon as you said command tasks, you smiled.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember doing them, and I think we did them down in the RAS rig in HMS Raleigh when I went back to do my seamanship training as an OM1, and they do sort of, I think it was part of a leadership course, but they didn't sort of appoint a leader. I think it was to find out who the natural leader was out of a group of people, if that makes sense. I think that's why we did those tasks. But yeah, complete fun.
Yeah, and that's why we include them.
We do that in our leadership.
We do it in the leadership. Well. The leadership's slightly
manager training.
The leadership's slightly different. Is I'll do leader-led, leaderless, and then we talk about autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. So with leaders, I basically, as I've gone through the ranks, I've nicked from all my leadership courses lessons, and I've put them in a leadership package, because I thought, well, why use that experience that I had? I even talk about when I was first promoted, I used to shout at everybody, and it used to be like, oh, I'm in charge now. That's probably not the best way, because people start hating you. There's better ways, and you need to know which type of leadership to use in which types of situations. So
as well, that's something that we've discussed with managers. So in a lot of jobs, managers promoted, but then they're not actually given training on how to manage people. So you might be really good at a job, and then you're put into a manager role, and then the communication, and it's just you're not prepared for it. You're not given that training. So a lot of people kind of set up to fail before you've even started. So that's something that we focus on with our when we do training as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like, just sort of listening to it, that, you know, the manual handling, the leadership and the management course and the mental health all seems to it all crosses, doesn't it? It's all got that sort of natural sort of it gels, doesn't it? The whole sort of package that you guys do.
Yeah.
We have little bits of each course in each other course as well. So you're quite right. If you're talking about communication with mental health is a lot about talking. But if you're a manager in your leadership, it's about communicating. So that's why we have little bits of each part of it all, because it is important.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that you guys have explained that to me, because I've got a bit more of an insight now, just off rather than just reading what it says on your website. So how can Elite help people leaving the military?
I think with our all ex-military, so we actively, work with guys. We've got the people that we've got at the moment predominantly have done full service, 22 years, have pensions and kind of in and out, which is great at the moment, because obviously with the restrictions and things, it is a bit limiting. But yeah, we will be, when we grow, we'll be recruiting. We're also part of the Armed Forces Covenant, so we do offer a military discount.
Okay. And so let's sort of use a hypothetical situation. Joe Bloggs leaves 22 years, moves back up to, I don't know, Glasgow, which is out of the way, where he's sort of done his service. He wants to set up being an instructor for you guys. What's the sort of process for that type of person?
We've got people based all over. We cover the whole of the UK. So for location wise is, we can work with that. I
was just going to say, what they did is with the first aid guy actually I spoke about earlier, we were just chatting on LinkedIn, and he just said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm qualified in this, and if you ever need any training, give me a shout. So he's now on our books. So if I have somebody over in the Kent area, I go, right, I'm going to go to John. John, are you free on this day? And he goes, yeah. We want, and we know we will, have full-time employees working for us. But at the moment, they're sort of subcontracting out just because of the COVID, because that's the way they need to be. And a lot of them, we only do 4-day weeks anyway. We'll never let one of our trainers do a 5-day week, because I know from background, training is really, really tiring. We want to keep that high spec. So the most that one of our trainers would get would be a 4-day block. But that's on their terms as well, because again, people have lives after the military and they want to take up other things. And if you want to build a business and get involved and then get a flavour for it, and we do all your admin, and then when you're feeling confident, leave and set up your own one-man band. We'll help you with that as well. We'll advise you with it
as well, because you've done both, haven't you? You tried to kind of do it on your own before, and I think a lot of like the admin and getting work, like putting yourself out there and trying to get the work in is hard work. That's a full-time job itself. So to have kind of that, oh, do you want to do this day? Are you free? Is kind of, it works for some people.
Well, I think as well, when we had our first call just before Christmas, when we were talking about doing this podcast episode, you sort of mentioned to me that people leaving, they're on a pension and they don't want to hit that 40% tax bracket. So it works quite well for those guys. They can work as much as they need to stay under that tax bracket, earn a bit of extra cash to top up the pension, and not work as many hours as they would do as if they went and got a 9-to-5 somewhere in an office or anywhere else for that matter.
Yeah, and I think as well the job really suits, because we do the training at site. You're not based in an office, you're not sat at a desk, you're out with people, you're interacting with people, and it's not the same thing every day. So it's not, you can't get bored. And I think that's the thing, I couldn't sit in an office. It's the kind of job that really suits that kind of person that doesn't want to be doing the same thing day in, day out.
Yeah, and I think I like that. Well, that sort of resonates with me, because I love doing the marquee hires, because I'm in a different place, talking to different people, putting marquees up outside in the sunshine most of the time with my shorts on, and just sort of, that's sort of my bag. Whenever I'm in this office, I get cabin fever. I sort of can't wait to get out of here, but you've got to do that side of the business sometimes, haven't you? But so that's brilliant. So we've covered. So there's one question that I did miss, and it's a bit of a magic wand question for Harold, and it's, if you had unlimited funding and resources, what would you like to see put in place with regard to resettlement?
Right, I'm a little bit out of touch, if I'm honest with this, because when my lad was leaving the Marines, as I mentioned earlier, he sort of said there isn't a lot available anymore. Now, whether that's available information for him, and he just didn't see it, and I said, well, you need to do this, and he went, it's not there anymore, Dad. It's not.
How
available.
long did he do?
He did 4 years.
4 years?
So I don't know what he was eligible to.
Just 4 years? Yeah. Well, that is a bit of a sort of pet hate of mine, because I only did 4 years plus my year to leave, and you aren't eligible to any ELCs or anything like that. So it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. I'll say it. You know, there'll be people watching this who might not agree with me, but I think it's ridiculous. I think anybody who has worn a cap badge, worn a uniform, served in any sort of one of the services, they should be entitled to at least some sort of resettlement, and not just the people who have done 6 years plus. So yeah, I agree with that.
In answer to your question, then, that you just enlightened me there to something, because I think everybody was entitled to. It was the standard learning credits. No matter how long you've done, you could have the standard learning credits, but I think it was the enhanced ones that you had to have done a prolonged period to, if I'm not mistaken. But as a silver bullet, I don't think, apart from putting something in for absolutely everybody that joins, gets some form of resettlement, those less than 4 years as well, there is so much out there. That's the thing. So I don't think there is an amount of money that would do it. You've got the Quest magazine, you've got the CTP, you've got the people you can go to, you've got your resettlement officers, you've got it all. Do you know what? You just need to get yourself out of it. A bit of advice would be, don't expect people to hand things to you in the military and you walk out of that job. I'm in charge of millions of pounds of equipment, so I should walk into a 30 grand a year job without, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. That's one of my top 3 tips when I've got a video that I did top 3 tips about resettlement. And one of mine is exactly what you've just said. Take charge of it, because no one else is going to do it for you. You know, don't expect anyone else to do your resettlement. Your resettlement, get it done. And you've really got to just be as harsh as that, really, to drum it into people. So it's been a blast doing this podcast episode with you guys. One last question is, how can people reach out to the Elite Force Safety Group and you guys? Well, it's social media really heavily, and I'm not allowed on social media.
We're all over social media. We've got our website. There's a contact us section on there.
Well, what I'll do as well is, when I've uploaded this to YouTube, I'll do a post next week. So if anybody's they'll be obviously following my profile because they're watching it on my profile. So I'll share your social media in the comments on that post when I've uploaded it to YouTube, so people can get in touch with you that way. Thank you so much for coming on, guys, and giving me your time today. This has been the Armed Forces Resettlement in Conversation podcast on Link. Thanks to everyone watching on LinkedIn Live and everybody in the Armed Forces Resettlement Community Facebook group. Cheers, guys.